Paige Sparks, Samantha Sparks, welcome to Legally Contented. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, my name is Paige Sparks. I do plaintiffs' employment law.
Hi, I'm Samantha Sparks. I do consumer protection and personal injury for plaintiffs.
And together we have a law firm and we are sisters-in-law.
Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to talk to you both. You've got this little law firm going on in Missouri, and Paige, you've also got this little TikTok account. You've got about 1.7 million followers. So I guess occasionally you are recording some videos and publishing them. You're both doing things at your firm separately to help it grow. And I appreciate the time you're spending. This is our first three-way podcast episode. So dear listener, dear viewer, forgive us for any awkward pauses as Paige or Sam goes to talk. But I thought it was important to have you both on because I really want to hear what you're doing with your law firm. So the first question is, how in the world did two sisters-in-law decide to join forces to launch their law firm?
Yeah, thank you for having us. This all started one day when I was really burnt out and I didn't want to be a lawyer anymore and kind of like an F it mentality. And I just quit my job with no plan, not a lot of money and not really much to do afterward. And that's when I was like, hey, Sam, I did this thing. If you want to do it with me, feel free.
Yeah.
And she took everything over.
Paige is definitely more of the jump first, look later, where I'm like, do we have enough like boats to jump into? Does everyone have a life vest? Should we get helmets? So I thought she was just nuts, honestly. And then the more she was doing stuff and starting it, I realized that if I was gonna go out, this was the time to do it. And it's very rare that you trust someone that much in this business that you would be willing to start a company with them. So it was do or die, and she convinced me. Still not sure how, but she did.
The best thing about Sam is if I start doing something a little wrong, she just feels compelled to take it over and fix it a lot of the time. And I was like, I don't even need a website. I got this thing called TikTok. We don't need to do all this stuff like a real firm. And she's like, move over. We're going to be a real firm. And so that's how she really got on board, was by me being weaponized incompetence. And that way I just got her over.
I need everything to work, but chill.
What about where you were practicing law or the area you were practicing, Paige and Sam? But Paige, since you mentioned it, what about the practice of law was making you not want to continue doing it either at that firm or generally?
You know, at the time I was not getting a lot of support where I was at. And when you're a newer attorney trying to figure things out, that was really traumatizing for me to be like, just not as much support as I would have wanted. And I also didn't like some of the law I was doing. I was doing a little bit of criminal law, which I didn't enjoy at all. So I was just like, I'm done. I just tapped out.
And Sam, what was behind your decision aside from your extremely persuasive sister-in-law?
Yeah, it was a little bit different than Paige's situation because I did have a lot of support staff, which I just talked to them today. I'm still obsessed with my old paralegals. But it was kind of like I hit this point where I was just living for the weekend, and I realized that if I didn't make a change, it was going to be too late. And I was committing to doing this indefinitely, probably forever. And I wanted to be able to, take a half day on a Friday and go walk my dogs or anything and not feel guilty. And if I do feel guilty, I just want to feel guilty to myself and not to a bunch of other people. So it was really just more about changing what I prioritize in my life and prioritizing being happy in my family and my mental health instead of the law.
To put some context here, you both graduated in 2019, right, from law school. So you're still relatively early on in your legal careers. How did you even know what to do when you launched your law firm in terms of both, let's call it the Sam side of the corporate formalities and the kind of infrastructure and administration, and Paige, on your side, the marketing? Were you doing marketing? Paige, were you doing marketing at your old firms? And Sam, did you have enough exposure into how a law firm ran that you felt comfortable that you could start from day one building something that was going to last?
Yeah, the benefit to where I had previously worked was that it was a smaller firm. So I did get to see a lot of those ins and outs. And I had slowly been taking on more of those business type roles. So I had a very good grasp on what needed to be done. It was just figuring out how to get things done. And we're so lucky that, especially in St. Louis, we always say that it's kind of like its own high school, the practice of law. Everyone knows somebody who knows somebody. So there were so many people willing to help us out and offering to send us stuff and who they use for malpractice and whatnot. So it was really just accepting the help. And then probably the first month, I would say half of my time was just getting in fights with different providers and stuff to make sure that things were going to work smoothly for us. But once we got over that initial hurdle, it's been a lot better to just maintain now that I have everything kind of organized in my system. But Paige has probably the harder job for maintenance than I do.
I was gonna say our mentors that we had to help us with like weird situations or getting those things all set up, like Sam was saying, I would not have been able to do it without their friendship and support. And we have led a lot of like women in law groups locally, and it was just like an outreach of support. Like there's enough pie for everyone kind of mentality. So that was super nice. And I wouldn't have been able to feel comfortable if we didn't have that.
Were there people at your firm your old firm that pulled you aside and said like, hey, this is a great idea, don't let anybody dissuade you? Or did you get a little bit of people drinking Haterade and not seeming to really think you could do this on your own?
I don't know of those people because they never said anything to my face. So maybe there were, I don't know. But we had just like a huge outpour of support of people thinking it was a good idea. Or like even I remember Sam's mom when we went to lunch with her the day we were like making everything official. And she's like, I'll buy you guys lunch since you're starting a business. And she literally said it perfectly when Judy said, she's like, this is the best time to do it because if you mess up or if it doesn't work, who cares? Go get a job somewhere else. You don't have kids. You don't have all this stuff you have got to like structure and support. And so I was like, you're right. We have nothing to lose. And so we went forward kind of like that. But other than that, everybody was, I mean, and she was supportive too, but she was like, why not? Everyone kind of had that mentality with us from my point of view.
Yeah, I think people probably were talking poorly because that's just what people do. And especially with Paige's presence, you know, she already had, I think, 200,000 followers on TikTok. So there were probably a lot of trolls and people who were, you kind of want people to fail sometimes if you're one of those people. But most of that didn't make it to us, or the people who did, it ended up being more comical to us because I think we're both driven by that kind of, you don't think I can do it, so now I have to do it.
I'm very spite motivated.
It was good. Yeah. And, you know, we both have like the best support systems in our personal lives. You know, we could probably both go live with my parents right now and there'd be no questions asked and dinner on the table every night. So it was kind of low risk.
Did the 200,000 followers page give you and Sam some comfort in terms of you have this audience that's theoretically 200,000 sets of eyes and ears that are listening to you? Did you think that was enough of the building block in terms of your marketing and your business development and sales? Or how did you view that in the overall scheme of things in terms of getting the firm off the ground through its marketing and early clients coming in?
So at the time, while that is a big size following, we weren't getting like steady leads or things really from social media. And it was more a thing that local people were thinking was cool, which was making them want to sign up. So we didn't have like a huge, great conversion of like leads from that turning over to cases. But we also brought our own caseloads with us. There's, you know, the Missouri rule that allows you to go with a lawyer that's leaving a law firm. So we both brought, you know, practice with us. And then after that, I was able to kind of get motivated again, not hate my life anymore, not hate being a lawyer anymore. And I started making videos. And then that's when I started getting creative with the videos because no one can tell me what to do anymore, right? So I started doing the coffee videos and the makeup videos. And that's when things just like took off. And that's when it started getting kind of unmanageable how much people were reaching out at that point because it was like, it kind of ruined our life in a way. But best and worst thing that ever happened to us was the one viral makeup video overnight because it was like explosion. I mean, it got over like 30 million views and we just weren't ready for that. So it was like a weird flux of things, but because of it allowed me to kind of experiment with those videos that weren't just like PC perfect lawyer and it was getting to different viewers.
And I think part of what was comforting for me, at least with your TikTok and social media presence, was the other attorneys that it had allowed us to connect with.
Yeah.
So we grew this network mostly through social media. I would say I don't really know how many people we had met in person, but somebody in California would have a case and, they're sending it to us from their followings, or if we did get a case, we could, co-counsel with them. It kind of really broadened our scope of what we were able to do. And then it gave us more people who were wanting to reach out to us on the legal side versus the client side, I think.
And finding co-counsel out of state too. That's a good point.
So I was going to cover this later on, but what the heck? So many people, when they think about social media and lawyers, they think about leads and clients. But I would think that a core part of building your practice through social media is the referral generation and that flowing two ways. So I'm wondering, when you have clients come in, given that you are based where you're at and that you don't practice in every state yet, how has the referral business been in terms of, are you finding attorneys who are smart enough to come to you and say, hey, I do employment law in Texas. I know you've got a huge following. Maybe we could work together. Or are you having to do some of the heavy lifting, finding referral sources? And are you willing to refer out people who come into your messages and your firm through social media? Or do you have to say, hey, sorry, we only practice in these states. We can't help you?
A little bit of both. Some people do approach us, and we love that when people are really clear about what they expect and what they have in mind. And it's good to have someone you can rely on to send someone you don't know, because that's an extension of us. Whenever I say, hey, talk to so-and-so in Texas, and I hear they had a bad experience with a rude secretary, they tell me, and then I feel bad, So we get a little bit of both. If we have a really good case, like someone reaches out to me where they need help right now because they're still employed and they need accommodated, or I'm like, that is very clear retaliation to me, then we will sometimes kind of connect the dots and help them find a local counsel to make sure they can get with someone that is referred by like our National Employment Lawyers Association, for example. But it's a little bit of both. And some people are really weird about it.
What does that mean?
Do you want to talk, Sam, or do you want me to?
Oh, yeah, I can. I think some people don't trust the referral source always, which I understand, because how many spam emails does everyone get? So it kind of, I guess, to some people maybe seems a little bit like the prince from India who needs you to come save his life or whatever, and just send him $10,000 and he'll make you a billionaire. So it is hard when we reach out to people who we haven't already met or we don't have that connection. So sometimes it's more of a pain than it should be to just connect someone to an attorney. And then every once in a while you get a client who just only wants to work with us and they don't want to work with anyone else, and they don't understand that we can't file a lawsuit in Ohio. So it kind of both sides, there's a little bit of those awkward situations, but most of the time we're able to find somebody at least through the 6 degrees of separation and connect them, work out exactly how involved we are as local counsel and what they need from us. But there have been times where people get crossed off our list really quickly.
Let's talk about that point you just made, which is that some people want Paige or they want Samantha. Have you thought about that as the leads come in and your caseload grows, and presumably down the road you have the settlements, you have the recoveries that you're going to have a piece of in terms of your fees? As you think about growing the firm, how do you think about the people who only want lawyer Paige or they only want Samantha, and if they can't have either of you, they're going to go somewhere else?
Sam probably has a nicer answer than me for this.
Yeah, so for me, I understand, because there is that parasocial relationship a lot of people have with Paige where they trust her, they think that they're close. The good thing about our firm is that we've set it up to be very collaborative because of our previous experiences. We didn't feel like we always had that support. So that's one of our kind of mission statements, is that even if it's my case, Paige is still there to help me, to support me. And most of the time, that's more than enough. If somebody reaches out with an employment case for Paige and I'm handling it, as long as they know Paige, this is the correct firm, they're good. The fear definitely is that, branding it with here's Paige, everyone's going to insist on her. It's something that we've considered, but with how we have decided to practice law in that we care, or we try to care more about the individual client as opposed to just, the in and out. You might not even talk to your attorney or only talking to an intake specialist. We've really tried to focus in on caring about people. And so hopefully we'll never get to a point where Paige isn't going to be available to somebody if they need that reassurance. And if we are, I guess we'll be on a beach in Mexico drinking our margaritas and not caring. I don't know.
We're not a charity. I totally know, but I just can't charge someone who just lost their job and doesn't have an income and wants to know how they're going to pay their mortgage. I can't live with charging them $250 to tell them you don't have a case, So it's kind of like we're both bleeding hearts a little bit. And so we have some systems set up that do work whenever the videos aren't going crazy, where people will send us their summary, what state they're in. They have to answer these very specific questions. And if they take the time to do that, then we're able to directly help.
So that's a great point. Is that system a direct result from the makeup viral video where you guys said, hey, wait, we have to have something in place. We just can't do these one off. Where did that process come from? And I guess the flip side is, at what point did you realize that the size of the social media following and the inquiries coming in necessitated that you put in some kind of structure and procedure to not lose your minds?
We always made people provide a summary first, because it's like, if you want a free consultation, you've got to do it in a way that's convenient for us to be able to answer you. So we always did free consultations. They always had to provide a summary. And frankly, I'd rather answer emails all day, every day than spend on like a 5-minute phone call. So I'm like, summary only if you want to talk. But then after that is when, so Sam is really good with the systems and the planning. And when that video did blow up, we were actually out of town and we were like, what is going on? And then as soon as we got back, she starts making all of her lists and her charts and everything and getting it under control.
Yeah, so it definitely was out of necessity. And I kick myself because we had been talking about getting forms in place and then how the form would work on the back end and how we would filter. And it was just kind of like, okay, next month. And then we looked at each other. We were in New Orleans for, I think, the Missouri bar. And we were like, oh, buddy, this is the last time we're going to have fun for a couple of weeks. So that day we got back, I hunkered down, didn't answer so many emails so that I could get a system in place so that we could both be working on it and that we would know who needed to go where. And it was a mess, but it works now.
One funny thing about that is it's always the videos that I almost don't post that go viral. And that one was the one we're all talking about. The first makeup one that went viral is a prime example of that, because we were getting ready to go out of town. I get super stressed with travel. I threw together makeup that wasn't even that good. And I edited it in the car, got a migraine for 10 hours. And I was puking my brains out. And then I wake up that morning to how many millions of views on this video. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. That's what everybody likes. And it's the ones I almost don't post usually go viral. And a lot of my videos get more views because of the platform we have now. But I mean, the ones that you almost don't post because they're vulnerable, people like that.
Yeah. If you take anything marketing wise from this, it's that don't leave anything in your drafts. Yes. Because that's always what does it.
No drafts allowed.
So far, burn all the boats and keep the draft folders empty, right? That's the two takeaways and counting.
That's all you need
from this episode. So let's talk a lot about the TikTok and the social media. Paige, when you started going onto social media, did you have a plan in terms of the content you were creating? Were there other people, other lawyers or other influencers that you thought were doing something interesting that you could borrow a piece of? What inspired you to get on to social media and then eventually start going on to TikTok and doing the videos?
So I always wanted to do my own thing in my own style. I never wanted to do those crazy transitions where it's like the lawyer walking through a car and all this stuff. That's just not me. And no shame to anyone who does it. It's just not my thing. And so when we started, I was just kind of winging it. I wanted to do informational content. As a lawyer, like we have to navigate the not soliciting and just doing informational. And so when I first started, I don't know if you went back and look at any of the old videos, they're terrible, where I'd be like, hi, I'm Paige and this is the law. Like everyone starts somewhere, right? That's just proof of that. But so I didn't know what I was doing. And that's the best thing with content is when you are trying to find your thing and experiment, like don't be afraid to do that, especially to people just starting, because you don't have to be a certain thing. That's the prime time if I mixed it up now, people go, whoa, what are you doing? That's not a coffee video. That's not a mega video. And so I did have to find my own thing. And I got a lot of popularity because I would do non-legal advice Q&As where I was really clearly for each video being like informational only, not legal advice. My opinion is this. This was the question. I would link it to a video. People really liked that because it would mention them. And then I would be like, this is what I think. And because I would do those Q&As, that's why everything took off.
So direct engagement with the people who were basically tuning in and following you.
Yeah, we call it being a good citizen. I answer comments, I upload the video, I link them together when I can. And I used to be really good about answering like every single comment, every single message. And I think that was really what helped get that community feeling, because people could ask something and I would be like, that's not a law, or kind of generally offer resources.
Sam, as you saw Paige's following start to increase, did you see a change in her strategy? Did you see any difference in how the videos were being made? Because I can imagine that as people start to get a following, there might be a tendency to overthink things, or to Paige's point, try something really different. What did you see from her content creation? And did you urge her to keep on pumping out those videos, knowing that could help her build her career in a totally unique way than probably any other way or any other time in the history of the law and legal marketing?
Yeah, I love that she does videos because that means I don't have to. So the more videos she does where I'm like, take the afternoon, I don't care, just don't make me do this, please. But I think the best thing about how Paige did it as she was growing was she was really focused on keeping, like what she said, having that core. So Paige has these fans rather than just people who follow her on TikTok. So everything she was doing as she was adapting and growing, from my perspective, was catering to those fans, the ones who will fight back for her in the comments. It's hilarious. They'll beat me to it. I'll be like, how dare someone say that about her? And 5 people that neither of us have ever met are already like, Paige would not like that you said this. So it's really cool how she does that. And then she's always keeping up with the changing algorithm. So TikTok changes it, obviously just to suit their needs to make as much money as possible. So there'll be one week where she says you 20 times in the first 10 seconds because that's what's going to make the algorithm happy. And then the next week, we're only doing coffee or activity videos because people want to be able to listen and distract themselves. So she's very good at staying on pace. She doesn't seem like she's scared anymore to do it. Every once in a while, we take.
Oh, are you kidding me? I get nervous every time I post a video, just like everyone else in the world.
Not more so. Not 1.7 million seems to me like you're just as stressed out as you were back at the 200,000.
Sam's a really good sport because I'll be like, hey, we got to do this trend this week. And she's always down for it. So she's super supportive of videos. And also, like, when I was really wanting growth, you're supposed to try to do like 3 to 5 videos on TikTok a day for growth. And that's when you're really wanting to grow and you're like, and it's a lot of work. And so it's so nice because I feel guilty of not keeping up with that because I'm like, look at what we could have. How much do you think we could have now? But it's exhausting because you have to think about it and edit it and then be that good citizen and interact with people. So I have to say I really appreciate that Sam is super graceful when I'm like, I'm not making a single video this week, and she never says a thing.
To your face. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Breaking news, Samantha hates when you do that.
Yeah. No, it's because with anything, you can't burn yourself out. So I would much rather you take a week off and then go back and be happy than push yourself and then delete your TikTok one day because you're just over it.
That's a great point. I'm curious, how do you balance the content? Forget the law firm right now. Just focus solely on the marketing. How do you balance the content creation with thinking about these ideas? What's your process for coming up with those ideas? And then on top of the videos, on top of the actual ideation, how are you taking time to stay attuned to what's working on TikTok? Because there are people who literally their job at social media content agencies is to just watch TikTok videos, track engagement, see what trends are working, what trending audio is out there. How do you balance the content creation, the ideation, and the actual knowing what trends are working so you can take advantage of them?
I'm not very good at balancing it because I'm like an all or nothing kind of person. So like one week I might dial back on the legal work and I'm really into videos and doing detailed case videos and green screen and I feel real inspired and I have time for that. And then one week, like I was just saying, I'll be like, I'm not making a video this week. I'm over it. So I haven't found like the magical recipe. I will say I have to, just like any creator, we have to enjoy making the video that I'm putting together. Otherwise, it's dreadful. It comes across that way. So if I ever start to find myself getting like really bitter or mean to certain comments, or I just am like, you stupid idiot, why would you ask that question? That's when I pause because I'm like, that's not me. I need to calm down and like maybe we'll revisit this in a few days. And I'm always come back in like a better mood. But it's hard. It's really hard because like you said, it's all us. Like you're looking at who runs the social media account and that's no surprise. Like I'm really proud that we respond to the messages. And like when you're talking to us, it literally is us. But that being said, it's exhausting. I mean, sometimes it'll be like 11 a.m. and I'm like, or 11 p.m. and I'm writing back messages and things like that. So I don't have a secret formula for how to balance it. I'm usually not actually very good at balancing it, but I just started recently Sam's really good with boundaries. So she'll be like, do this from this time today, do what you're comfortable with. And I've started kind of being nicer to myself of like, not posting a video is okay.
How do you even structure your days, right? So are there some days where you are just banging out videos and a TikTok day, or do you find yourself almost having to mix the legal work with the marketing work to keep some kind of balance and sanity?
I try to mix things up. I'm not very good at batch making content. Sam is really good at batch making content. Like we would come up with a list and she'd do her videos and just want to get it over with. That's not me. And if I do that, I end up with a lot of drafts because I get bored with it. So like I have ADHD, and if I get bored making it, it stays in my drafts and I'm done because I'm like, someone will be bored watching that is what I think. So I can't sit and make a bunch of videos. I kind of do it as I'm inspired or as something happens that I might get off the phone with like a lawyer for the company that was a jerk to me and I'll be like, I'm going to make a video about this. That's more like how I like to do things. But it just depends on what works for people. You know, if you need to batch make it to get it done so you have time, do that. But I just couldn't do that.
It doesn't seem like you have an elaborate lighting setup. It doesn't seem like you've got 27 microphones around you. Is that something that you find attorneys trip themselves up on? I need to have the exact perfect background. I need to have the exact perfect lighting and microphones because you don't have that. And yet you seem to be doing just fine. You're building a law firm around your social media efforts. So I guess you're doing just fine. But do you see that with attorneys who contact you for tips or just people out there in the legal world almost obsessing over these formalities that aren't even necessary to have a successful social media presence?
Do you want to speak to that one, Sam, of like the perfect content?
Yeah, that's Paige's least favorite word is perfect content. She's always screaming at people, it's quantity over quality when it comes to social media posting. And it definitely is something we see. People will set up meetings or lunches with us and say, okay, I'm ready to do it. Let's get into TikTok. Like, send me the list. And she's like, the list of what? Like, do you have an iPhone? Do you have an Android? Either way, we're good. And then people just get very insecure about, you know, how you look on the screen. And it is something that's hard because as lawyers, you know, we're supposed to be these professionals, perfect, you know, old school methods on how people used to think of lawyers. And so being willing to be part of the group that's changing that is I think, really big roadblock for a lot of people. And they end up really hurting themselves because then they just post infographics no one's going to read, or just stuff that it just doesn't resonate anymore. But yeah, I think that's definitely a big issue a lot of people have, and it's just not necessary. You just need a good window and your phone, and you're good to go.
We're past the 2017 like perfect Instagram phase. That's not relatable. Nobody's perfect. Nobody ever says all the right things. And actually it helps your engagement rate when your content isn't perfect, because people are going to comment to let you know you said something wrong, or a typo, or tell me my foundation doesn't match my neck, or you name it. Like, the more things that can be kind of wrong with your content invites for that engagement, and a little controversy with it is okay. Like, if I'm dyslexic where I switch up words sometimes and I don't realize it later, I never delete those videos because someone's going to comment to tell me I said the wrong word. And so imperfect content is okay. It's relatable, and it's going to help that viewer trust you, that you're not some fake lawyer Joe Schmo off all the commercials we see where they have some kind of slogan. You said a word wrong too. So it just makes you approachable.
Do you map out any of the videos in terms of topic or format? Do you have an editorial calendar where you say, okay, this week it'll be a makeup video on Monday, and then a second makeup video on Wednesday, and we're going to cover wrongful termination on one day and harassment the other day? How much of the content you create, because you create so much of it, how much of that is planned and how much of it is just what happened that hour or that day?
I don't plan anything out ahead of time. I don't like to pre-plan anything. It just stresses me out. And in fact, that's why I don't do sponsored deals. Like, whenever Sam and I we would try to do one, or like think about it. The structure stuff really freaks me out, because I'm like, we're doing all of our own legal stuff. Now I got to record this and find time to do this video promoting this. And so I don't plan anything. And when it requires planning, I'd rather just not do it, because that's just my brand though, where I will talk on things that are relevant that day or that happen. And so I don't pre-plan anything, which is kind of why some of those videos that were really successful started. Like, the day we were leaving to New Orleans, I didn't have time to make a video, so I killed two birds with one stone and did my makeup and talked about things I could talk about in my sleep, like labor law 101, that you and I would be like, duh, but your average person doesn't. And because it's not their world, they're not used to it. So I made good content by killing two birds with one stone, because the algorithm likes that storytelling, number one. Someone will follow what you're doing and not even listen to what you're saying, and vice versa. So you can get multiple views from having content like that. And then in addition, I was calmer because I wasn't like focused on what I was going to say or what am I going to do now. Like, I was putting my eyeliner on, which is way harder than talking about how to sue your boss. So I don't plan anything, but that's why I think the content works for me. Again, if someone needs to do that to feel prepared, or I'll keep a list of ideas if I can't think of anything that day of something I might want to talk about. But I think it's a good way to get started. But if you stay like that, your content might get kind of stale.
I will say that on Facebook, you do plan stuff out more, because you do so much on TikTok that we're reusing a lot of content. Yeah,
that's
so
true.
She is very good about being like, okay, we had this topic, so I'll put in one of these on Facebook, because it is such a different audience where it's not somebody who's just scrolling for hours and consuming. It's, your great aunt Velda, who is going to be so excited to see what Paige thought of on Facebook. So you're good at balancing that.
I would be remiss if I did not guide our listeners and viewers to check out any of Paige's makeup videos. They are mesmerizing, where Paige is looking to the camera and she's got a makeup brush in her hand, and she goes from no makeup to makeup, all while talking about a relevant employment law topic. It is something to watch, and it's just incredible that you've got that I guess I could say vulnerability, because you are there without makeup, and yet you are just doing it in front of the camera for literally millions of people to see, which makes me wonder, did you have a thick skin before you started your social media marketing? And have you developed a thick skin because you are a woman, you are a lawyer, and there are people out there who like lick their lips trying to take down a female lawyer online. So how did you develop that thick skin, and how do you deal with the crap that gets thrown at you inevitably by being a woman lawyer on social media?
You know, a little bit of both. I used to have feelings. Now I don't anymore when people talk about my appearance so much. So when I first started, if someone made a mean comment, I mean, it ruined my week. I've got my teeth fixed because TikTok bullied me that I had crooked bottom teeth. You know, I used to care a lot about what everybody thought. And I still do, but now I don't take it personally. Like now I just kind of consider it more so as feedback when people do that. And like Sam was saying earlier, we have such a great supportive group of people that if there is a mean one, I don't even respond anymore half the time, most of the time, because people are like, and they'll be like, don't call her sweetheart. And you know, they know the things that we normally go after people for. Or they'll be like, you haven't answered me back. I've emailed you 67 times for this case in Utah where I'm not licensed. And they'll comment and be like, she always says talk with the lawyer in your state. You know, I have great people that come and kind of enforce those rules, those community rules that we have. So that has really helped things, which I didn't have at the beginning. So I did take it a little more personally. Now it's really hard to hurt my feelings. And actually we'll put you on blast if it's funny on like a green screen or something. We did that with someone who decided to call our law firm and leave 3 death threats on voicemail. So I've kind of stopped doing that after that for a little bit. But if you,
Yes.
But that was not a fun experience for Samantha because they found her information thinking it was me, like threatening her. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But
Yeah, I was not killed though, so we're all good.
It's hard to hurt my feelings now. It's the things that hurt my feelings now are nothing to do with what you might think of someone commenting, being like, you're ugly and stuff like that. It's more being, if they told me I was like wrong about a law and they were right or something like that, that would get me more. But yeah, people's normal insults, it doesn't matter to me anymore. The men get really upset a lot of times about the makeup videos. But the funny thing is when you comment and engage with it, you're telling the algorithm you want more. So like literally them commenting to tell me that I look rough is like sending them more makeup videos, and that gives me joy.
What has been the reaction from people that you work with in terms of the legal community locally and fellow law school alums who are now out across the country? Are people supportive of building a practice through social media? Or do you get the old school folks who say, you should be speaking at conferences and networking at bar events, and you shouldn't be having this much success so soon. You have to pay your dues a bit more, Ms. Paige?
We get a little bit of both of that, Sam, don't you think?
Yeah, we're lucky because we went to St. Louis University, and one of the, what is she? The like career coordinator. She's one of the most beloved human beings you could get at the school. She thinks it's just the bee's knees that Paige is on TikTok. So we have the school and all of the professors, and like we've had professors be in Paige's TikToks before. We got really lucky with them setting that example. So most of the people that we go to school with see, oh, Mary Pat said it's cool, so I'm not going to say anything mean to her. And I think that's really helped. But Paige, you probably have gotten a lot more direct responses.
Well, you know how lawyers are just rooted in these like archaic systems. Like it took some courts for COVID to do all full e-filing or things like that. So that is what we're fighting here with media. The same kind of principle of like, it's new and it's different, therefore I don't like it. I think that's a normal response from the legal community. When I first started, I was getting messages from people who would tell me, I think you're violating these rules. And I'm a rule follower. I never say, call me. I never say, I'm your lawyer. I very carefully always in every video and in every post, it's informational only and comply with those rules. And this person reached out and they were like, hey, I think you're violating this rule. Me being pleasant like I am, I was like, appreciate your concern. Have a good one. And then they sent me a 40-page PowerPoint for how I was violating the specific rule that I wasn't violating. And I just ignored it. And then fast forward 3 years, they were asking me for help to make their videos. So that just goes to show you like things change. And everyone who was mean to me when I didn't matter, I definitely remember that, because the people that aren't are the ones that we put in our videos and get to have fun. And like, I have no problem showing someone how to do it. It's not a secret. You'll never do it the way we're doing it because everyone has their own different style. But it's funny because I feel like it was the attitude commercials used to get. Like I reached out to someone, Morris Bart. He was the one guy down in the South that did all those commercials, and he had a bar complaint in every state for his commercials. I reached out to him. I was like, man, this is the same thing. And he goes, you are so right. Instagram and TikTok is what I was doing. You're already light years ahead. And so I told Sam, I'm like, we're printing this out and keeping it forever. But it's so funny how the tables turn now that people realize they missed the bus. They're trying to catch up, which you still kind of can, I think. And they're like panicking, scrambling where to start. Like that was kind of rewarding because I was like, you guys were really bad to me.
Yeah, and since we are such rule followers, we got an informal opinion from the Missouri Bar of Ethics, like just confirming we're good. And then, Paige is so involved with the Missouri Bar. We're speaking there later this week, actually, on how to set up a TikTok. So it's always funny when people are passive aggressively like, I'm looking out for you. It's like, we're good. Thank you, though. But maybe
I think there's I think a generational war here in the legal industry where the people who are relatively new into the industry or who are comfortable with technology can say, hey, awesome job. There's so many clients out there for all of us. You could never get so big that you're going to take all of the clients from everyone else. And I think the older attorneys, because they didn't come of age in a technological world, and they had to really pound the pavement for clients. If they even have their own clients, they might look at it and say, wow, look how easy it is. This girl just opens up her phone, shoots videos, gets clients, and has a law firm now. She doesn't know what it's like. So it's a funny kind of mentor-mentee issue where I went through the hard stuff. You should go through the hard stuff. And then the people that you mentor should go through the hard stuff. So I can understand why they feel that way. I don't agree with it, but it's like the fraternities and sororities where you go through hazing because other people did. And now it's their turn to pass it down to the next generation.
I think it is definitely generational. And when people treat us like that, I just make a video about them for everyone on TikTok.
That they're never going to see because they don't believe in TikTok.
But their daughter sends them.
Yeah.
You're a celebrity. This girl just talked about you on her TikTok. What do you see with the future of content creation, whether it is the content marketing, the thought leadership marketing? We'd be remiss if we didn't mention AI somehow in this conversation. But what are you seeing as two people who are building a law firm on the back of social media, who I would assume want to stay at the edge of the state of the art and at the edge of the envelope because you want to always stay ahead of the pack? What are you all seeing in terms of content that works, content that doesn't work? And if you looked into your crystal ball, what do you think social media and other content marketing would look like in the next 3-4 years?
I'm so glad you asked this question because I've been dying to tell you what I think is going to happen. So do you remember like pre-COVID when everyone was like shopping through their influencer and they'd swipe up to buy and these ladies were making millions of dollars? I think the big law firms that don't adapt to videos and do that with a lawyer, for example, are going to die off because like Sam was saying, they want that parasocial relationship. And like, of course, like Morgan & Morgan's not going to go under, but they could have a figurehead where a lawyer or influencer, and I'm not saying me, but someone that will answer their questions and things right now, because right now they don't have an identity on social media. And so I think it's really going to change if they don't find figures to do that and answer questions or things like that, because it's a totally untapped market. And we get people that'll comment and be like, I went to these big law firms and they wouldn't even talk to me or hear the case or whatever. And maybe they don't have a case, but they still feel good when they just get one email confirming that or something. So I think that the people that don't do videos and adapt to doing that uncomfortable things, just like the commercials, what happened to the people that were behind the bus on commercials? They're still running them because they weren't rich enough to retire. I think the same thing is going to happen with media as well.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing in the shorter term, I think there's a lot more long form that we're starting to see come up. So that's something that we're starting to adapt to more, is to get the longer videos that are, the 10 minutes or even the 3 minutes, as opposed to the quick 30-second sound bites that we're doing. And I think AI is going to be very interesting because it sounds like it's going to be great. We have ChatGPT and all of this stuff, but then when you get into it, there's those limitations that people really want you to just care about them. So, AI might be great at getting all of your intake for a car accident, but they're not going to say, sorry, you can't walk, or, oh, that's really unfortunate, your kid got hurt. And so it's going to be very interesting finding the balance between staying personal and keeping that parasocial relationship up, and also adapting with the times and not being the only people in the world who are still doing it ourselves instead of with the robot.
We're going to see fascinating things with text and blogs when every law firm is using one of 3 or 4 tools to write SEO optimized blog posts. It's all going to be vanilla. And the firms that don't do it will hopefully stand out if they can find a unique angle, a unique style. And with videos, you already have some products out there that can create avatars of us where you can type in a 30-second or 60 seconds worth of talking about Camp Lejeune or talking about what to do if you're in a car accident, which is great for that, again, that SEO kind of awareness. But to both of your points, the warmth and the building, the familiarity and the relationship, for the foreseeable future, that's human, right? That's not robot driven. That's not AI driven. And just because you can create a video with your avatar doesn't mean you necessarily should, because your clients, your community might want to love to see you guys review ice cream stores or pizza shops or, some kind of real local cultural thing that you can't wind up an AI or wind up a robot, at least now, to do. So I think it just goes to your point about building the relationships and creating a connection through this funky technology where people feel like they know you, they defend you. It's just mind blowing. And who knows what AI is going to do, but it'll be doubtful it's going to be able to create that connection as deeply and as warmly as we can do it right now as human to humans.
I think that's what lawyers get hung up on, is that they want that answer that AI can give, where they'll be like, legal problem, here's the case, here's what you can say, no, you're right. But that's not what our legal audience actually wants. Our videos don't ever say like, here's the problem, here's the solution, it's worth $50,000. And that's what I think the problem will be, like converting that into content from AI, because you don't have to solve the issue on whatever you post about. Like the videos that we share that are informational will be like, if this is what's happening to you at work and then you complained and it didn't get better, you may want to talk with the lawyer in your state. That's not high tech, that's not novel or anything, but that still is feeling relatable. And it's using, like Sam touched on, we use a lot of psychology in our videos for saying the you. And if you use the phrase you twice within the first whatever of your video, retains your viewers. And so that's what I think AI is not going to be able to cater to so much of. We don't have to go there and solve the problem and come up with fake AI cases like that lawyer in New York or whatever accidentally happened to. But I think that's where it's totally different, is like, that's not a person. It's not relatable. And I don't see that being effective long term. I think you can use it to supplement your content. Certainly be like, what do I say about this? Or how can I talk about this? I think it's a good supplement, but places that rely only on that, I think it's kind of weird for me personally.
You, as co-owners of a business, have plenty of things to keep you awake at night. Does the talk about TikTok being banned, or generally the idea of building an audience and building a business on rented land instead of owned land, does that give you any agita, any heartburn, any sleepless nights?
I don't think too much, because Paige is I know she said she's not always, but she is always very on the pulse of what is going on with socials. So before it was even a big deal that there might be these TikTok issues, Paige already started beefing up her Instagram. So now her Instagram could sustain us. And then she's on YouTube, and, we're going on podcasts and stuff. So she's very good at diversifying us. And yes, TikTok is the home base. And if it goes away, I'm sure there will be something else that is going to pop right back up. Or Project Texas or whatever is going to kick in, and, she'll get it back. But Paige, you might be more scared about that, but I think you got it. That's why I sleep at night. I'm like, Paige,
I would have for like 24 hours if I didn't have TikTok. I would be just like And then I'd probably be sad just because my people are gone, like the people that I talk with and get to know. But like Sam said, it's really important to diversify your portfolio basically with your content for two reasons. Like you're saying, like, what if one account gets banned? Let's not even talk about TikTok. Let's talk if someone's commenting as Facebook and they get flagged too many times for fighting with people in the comments and now their Facebook page is down. You can't pour all of your heart and soul into one platform for that reason. Any platform can go away at any time. And so if you're doing different ones, not only are you strengthening your presence for if you do lose an account or if something happens, but also you can experiment with your content. Our Instagram content performs very differently than our TikTok content. So we repurpose everything too on that because I want to see what works and what doesn't. And of course, like the trends that were popular on TikTok are like 3 months behind and then they're popular on Instagram. And so like we do keep track of all of those things. I'm not worried if one gets deleted or anything. We don't get any significant money from doing anything or like there's more than enough to go around from the other platforms. It would probably just give me more time to do that, instead of like answering all the comments on TikTok, but I'm not worried about anything happening to that overnight.
It's interesting too, when people talk about taking your audience off of rented land and onto owned land, like get them off LinkedIn and put them on a newsletter that you own. That's great, but it's not always clear the mediums would connect, right? If people are finding you on TikTok and they like who you are and how you come through the screen through video, well, then is the newsletter equivalent to send out a roundup of your most popular TikToks from the past week or two? Like it's not always a clear, one-to-one connection taking you off of a social media service, putting people on to a newsletter, and then just assuming they're going to keep on reading it and continue to engage with you if it's not the place where they found you and where they tend to be the most in terms of their social media habits.
Yeah, and the communities are totally different. Oh, sorry, Sam. Go ahead.
No, go. You were going to say something
They're totally different on different platforms too. So if we did an experiment to find that out, there's some people that follow me off of TikTok that don't know I'm local, for example, and they just like the content. And then maybe Instagram's a little more personal because people like shopping more on there. And so I'll share products and things like that. And so keeping it diversified like that is what makes us not AI. And then the contents are different. Like you can experiment with and see what works. Sorry, Sam, I interrupted though. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, as far as having kind of the renting versus owning, we think of it more as this is a bad way to phrase it, but we own our faces. So, the content is Paige. Paige is the commodity. So whether we're putting that out on a different source, it's still, we're not hiring third-party influencers who could cancel their contract and we lose the face of our company. And I think for huge companies, it could make sense to put the capital into having something like if you're Morgan & Morgan, I guess they're going to get all the shout outs today. But they could put the money in to make that something that's worth going to. But a small firm, it's just not, I don't think, feasible. Even if Paige posted all of our videos to our website, like no one would see them there because people only go to your website when they're already wanting to hire you or they're already thinking about you. So I think it would be very difficult for small or medium-sized firms to create something that is going to make people care enough to go out of their way to read their newsletter. Like I probably would never read someone's newsletter. Not even my own.
A lot of people don't like to read anymore. People like to watch and listen. I mean, you'll listen to a podcast while you're cleaning or driving. And so a lot of people surprisingly don't read that much anymore. So videos, I think, are what go over well. And so with the captions and things, it's still picking up all those things for the algorithm of what you're talking about to kind of disperse it the same way. But less words is kind of better for video audience.
So I've got a few more questions for you. Paige, are you allowed to have a private life? Because so much of you now is online. And I'm not suggesting that you're doing day in the life videos all the time, but you literally invite viewers into your home when you're doing makeup. That's, I think, what some people would consider to be an intimate experience. Normally it's a human being and the mirror and their makeup. So how do you balance being the public persona you have with you still being Paige Sparks? And then Samantha, Do you ever shy away from doing things with Paige or saying things with Paige because you know that something that you do is going to be on TikTok or on Instagram within a few hours or a few days?
I try to be really respectful of if I'm going to put someone on, letting them be the cause. I didn't used to always be like that, but then I realized not everyone signed up for this. So like I try to be really respectful if we're doing things where we'll put it online. I also used to overshare everything because I am very much an open book. And I realized really quickly I could not keep doing that and maintaining that, not only for like relationships of friends and family, but also like it was exhausting and people started feeling entitled to certain information. And so if I would post something and then I'd get messages on Instagram that are like, why didn't you do this? Or where's this? Or I can't believe this. And so I kind of, with Samantha's help of setting up some boundaries of topics I don't talk about, it's now way more on my terms of what is shared. And I still overshare everything. I still do all the makeup videos or we'll do like we went on this trip and we'll share things like that. But now it's like what I'm choosing to share versus feeling like I have to share everything. And so that has been a lot more peaceful for me.
I think the other thing you've been doing, Paige, also is that you wait to post until the event is over, because there were situations like I've been with you before where people are like, Lawyer Paige, saw you were here from TikTok. And that I think is where I've seen you get very uncomfortable. It's the only time where you're like, like you're probably nice, but I'm no. So I think that's a way that you also are able to control it more, where you can say, come to court with me, but I went to court 2 days ago, so no one's going to show up. No one's going to see me. As far as me being in the TikToks, I've been trained by Paige, I think, a little bit. The other day we were at coffee and I didn't even think of picking up my coffee until Paige could get the picture. I was just sitting there like you would have thought I was like a kid, like about to get in trouble. Like I was like, go ahead, get it done. But she is very good, like she said, about saying, if you don't want to do it, it's fine. And there are times where I'm like, I just want to make dinner. I don't want to have us on anything. Like, please stop. Or we'll do a couple different takes if I'm not feeling it. And she's like much more nice to me than she is with herself. She's like, okay, I'll give you 3. I would only give me 1 take, but it's fine. So I don't think she's good at accepting now, at least. Just kidding. You always have been.
Yeah, I used to. So Sam is not as big a fan of videos as me. And so I try to be respectful of not making her do them at a gunpoint anymore, unless she wants to do one or if it's like a good topic or something. But she'll still do them every once in a while. And it's so funny because I'll help anyone with videos. It's my passion. I love doing it. And everyone always thinks they want me to help, but be careful what you wish for, because I'm insane. And I'll be like, say this hook, say this exactly. We're happy to be here. And poor Sam has been tortured with all of it because I'm like, smile talk. Like, you have to be pleasant. But it's always funny.
We're happy to be here.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing, to be like, we're happy to be here. Record your video.
You are running a direct-to-consumer type law firm. Your content is a direct-to-consumer type content. You're talking about employment law and legal issues that impact individuals, and your firm serves mostly legal issues that are faced by individuals. Do you think there's room for attorneys who practice business-to-business law, such as corporate finance or FDA regulatory work? Is there room on TikTok for attorneys like that, where the audience would likely be smaller, but you still have the ability to build those relationships with that smaller, tight-knit audience?
I think absolutely. My toxic trait is I think everyone needs to be making videos, no matter what their industry, what their profession, because you're seeing and showing something that the average person doesn't get to see. So it's always interesting content. Yes, the pool of fish may be smaller, but you're still going to make yourself a legal authority. And when someone goes and looks up a video, they're going to find your content. Or like right now, if you Google our firm, all of the things that we've talked about pop up. And while it might not be immediately related, it might be someone with a personal injury. The fact that we're talking and kind of sounding at least knowledgeable can still drive them, where then they'll go talk to Sam for the personal injury and they didn't see her at all. So I think you should do it for any industry, any size, because it has its place. And it's just free advertising, pretty much. I mean, like, why would you not post free videos? when you could have one that goes nuts and then you're getting all these views and attention. That's why I think everyone should do it, no matter what industry. Obviously, you'll have to tailor it a little differently, but there are companies that reach out to us too, and we only do plaintiff side work, but they'll reach out and say, can you come do HR consulting to our big company because we want to just a refresher. And so that would still happen in my mind for your hypothetical, would still happen to someone who's doing it for a smaller company. Maybe they'd ask them to come speak or ask to look at the documents. I think it has a place everywhere.
Yeah. And to that point, Paige, that you touched on, I think having that essentially portfolio on your social media of showing these are the things I'm comfortable talking about. I'm an expert on these, even if it's not what gets your name in front of a company. They're going to do their due diligence and look you up. And it's a lot better if they go to your TikTok and see 100 on topic videos and they can understand and relate and get your personality more than if you have, one Facebook that hasn't had a post since 2017. So it's a way to kind of backdoor a personality into things that I don't think a lot of times you're able to have a personality for. But at the end of the day, it's a person making a decision and you don't want to work with someone who sucks. So it helps.
Well, and the content libraries, whether it's blogs, videos, podcasts, the ability for people to see quickly that you know what you're talking about. And if you show some semblance of a personality and you've got some warmth that's coming through the audio or through the spoken word or the written word, that goes pretty far, right? People are attracted to people. They want to work with people who they have some connection with. And if someone cracks a dad joke or a mom joke or some kind of joke that instantly pulls you into their world, you are more likely to go to them assuming that they've got the credentials and the resume you're looking for, compared to some plain vanilla website where it just talks about super lawyers awards and the post picture of the attorney with books behind them.
And when you're talking about, so there's like an inside joke phenomenon on social media where if you can get your community to have inside jokes or humor, instant trust, because now we relate to each other. We both think it's funny. Of course, you're funny because you think I'm funny. And it's kind of this inside joke circle. So that's kind of like next tier. So I'd say get your videos, like intro for anyone who wants to reach out and do it. And then if you can start making those little inside jokes or dad jokes, like you were saying, those connections, those are gold. And it's hard to do that organically. But like we were joking earlier, some of my followers will be like, don't call her sweetheart, because a lot of men on there that want to fight with me do. And so that is an inside joke where they fight to be the first one to say that. And so, yes, joke, be personable, talk like you're talking to your friend. The more you can do that, the more of a person you are. And it just pays off because it's with that psychology of, I'm just like you. That's all it is.
I have one last question, which is, what is one thing that you wish you knew before you either started the social media marketing page, or Samantha, before you started Sparks Law? What's one thing that you know now that you wish you knew back then?
You want to go first, Sam?
Well, the one off the top of my head isn't very nice. I would say don't work with GoDaddy. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Oh yeah,
I had a very big fight with them, like our very first month out. So I'm still a little angry about that. But it's been a year and I'm still just peeved. But I think it's just to learn to accept help. It is so easy to want to be perfect and to always have the right answer. And it feels icky to be an attorney and then not also know everything all the time. So I wish I had been much more open to accepting help from outside sources instead of waiting until I was, 2 seconds away from a mental breakdown before calling people in. So that would be mine. I'm not sure, Paige, what's yours?
My biggest thing I wish I would have known is more video geared, because when we're making these videos, lawyers are some of like the most insecure people ever, right? Like we always got to be right. We got to prove something to everyone. And I wish I hadn't gotten in my own head so much when I first started making content. Like Sam was saying, I wanted it to be perfect and proper, and I fact checked everything, which of course you should do. But I stressed myself out so much, made not a very good product because that comes across. And I kind of punished and beat myself down for being like, oh, you messed up a word or something in that video. Knowing what I know now, that's okay. That's good for engagement. You want it to be imperfect because not only is it relatable, but it's going to increase that engagement like we talked about. And nobody's going to watch it. You know what I mean? Like, I have videos that I post where I'll stress out about it still, even with 1.7 people on TikTok and like 300 something on Instagram. I'll stress out. Maybe 2,000 people will see it. And if I could have go back in time and be like, don't sweat the videos, like let it unfold. As long as you're not doing anything bad in them or anything, just let it roll, because it's good overall. It's good in the bigger picture. Also, never save your drafts, like Sam said earlier. That's my my favorite thing to harp on is there should be no such thing as drafts. Everyone should post everything, because those are what people want to see.
Your gut is always wrong, at least when it comes to your draft posts. It might be right in other areas of your life, but when it comes to your draft posts, set them free.
Just post your drafts.
Unless you're doing something wildly inappropriate, then just delete it.
No, people would want to see that too.
Yeah. How to get canceled.
Just wait for a PowerPoint presentation from someone that tells you all the things you did wrong, and then you can take it down.
And then
it's very clear, Samantha.
They will be obsessed with TikTok.
Paige and Samantha, where can people find your social media profiles, the firm's website? Go ahead, please plug and promote away.
So on my TikTok, it's Lawyer Paige. That's how early I get into the game. I got to get my first name. I was so proud of that. So my TikTok is Lawyer Paige, and then on Instagram, it's _Paige Sparks. And then we have a Facebook page that's Sparks Law Firm. And then we have kind of a neglected YouTube that we need to focus back on. That's Sisters in Law, where we're going to talk about different cases that are interesting to us and kind of the legal implications of why certain things happened, like ones you see in the news, like the Johnny Depp trial, for example. And then Sam's on there is Samantha Sparks STL. And then we're just tagged on everything on Instagram too. So if people start clicking around, that's the easiest way to find us.
Paige and Samantha, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your great spirits, your good humor. And I hope listeners, viewers take what you were saying and begin their own social media content creation process. And who knows, maybe they'll one day rival the follower count that you've got now, Paige. Thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.